Well, it's early January and it looks like this is not going to be a mellow year. We are starting off the year with absolute chaos. Today, we're going to talk about it because you know that mainstream media isn't. Welcome to another episode of The Sovereign Sphere. I'm Carla Treadway, and we're going to talk about the insanity that you're not hearing anywhere else. What if I told you that everything that you thought you knew about global power is about to change forever? That we're living through the most significant geopolitical shift since World War II. And most people have no idea what's really happening right now. As you're listening to this, three massive forces are colliding to reshape our world. Global elites are pushing for unprecedented centralized control through digital surveillance and international governance. Meanwhile, nationalist leaders like Trump are aggressively reasserting territorial dominance. He's literally talking about taking Greenland, and he's already cleaned out Venezuela. And then meanwhile, in the shadows, Canada, it's cozying up to communist China while our prime minister openly talks about establishing a new world order. Pretty funny, eh? I am seeing so many X posts about, can we stop using these conspiracy buzzwords? I'm like, what conspiracy? And we're not using buzzwords. We're talking about these issues in depth. The only people that are using buzzwords are the people that are trying to debunk that concept without an argument whatsoever. It drives me crazy. Today, we're going to dive deep into the most important question of this year, of our time. Are we heading toward a one world government controlled by global elites? Or are we entering an era of chaotic competition between rival empires? And more importantly, what does this mean for your freedom, your family, and your future? Because here's what mainstream media won't tell you. We're not just witnessing political changes, we're watching the controlled demolition of the old world order and the birth of something entirely new. The question is, who's really in control of what comes next? Let me start with a story that's going to blow your mind. Just 9 months ago, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney called China Canada's biggest national security threat. Fast forward to just last week, and he's in Beijing shaking hands with Communist Party leaders, explicitly stating that their progress will help set up the new world order. Word for word, he said this. Now, before you dismiss this as political theater, understand that this single event perfectly illustrates the three competing theories about where our world is heading right now and why getting this right could be the difference between freedom and tyranny for your children. The first theory, you've heard this before, my audience has heard this, the New World Order, right? Mark Carney just mentioned this, and it's hilarious that people are calling it a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy fact. Global elites, through organizations like the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and international banking systems, are clearly actively working toward creating centralized global governance. So we're talking about digital IDs that track every aspect of your life, unified global currencies that eliminate national economic sovereignty, supranational authorities that override your vote and your constitution, and coordinated policies on everything from climate to health to speech. The evidence is everywhere. The UK just announced mandatory digital IDs for employment. I know their people are pushing back hard right now. The EU is pushing to end online anonymity. They're also trying to get rid of X. And as we heard in leaked audio, they're building unified data platforms that would make China's social credit system look like child's play. Theory 2 is something totally different. We have a multipolar world. This is where it gets really interesting. The UK, but here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone is playing along with the globalist agenda. We're simultaneously seeing the rise of competing power centers. The US, China, Russia, India, regional blocs, they're all fighting for their own spheres of influence. They are not here for globalization. Think of it like this. Instead of a one world government, we're getting multiple regional empires competing against one another. It's kind of like the drug cartels in Mexico. When one gets weakened, the others fight viciously to fill the power vacuum. And this is where Trump's strategy starts to make sense. And this is something that no one's talking about. They're saying he's just greedy, he's just an evil man, he's out there to get their oil. Maybe those things are true, but you may not like Trump, but I don't think he's a dumb individual. I think he understands the bigger things that are at play. If you can't maintain global hegemony, you better dominate your region before someone else does. More on this later. Theory number 3, there's a digital order. So the third player that many people are missing when we're talking about global powers and who's actually going to be in control, it's not a country, but the technology companies. As Ian Bremmer points out, tech companies now have more power over our daily lives than most governments. They control who can speak and who gets silenced, what information you see and what gets buried, how you identify yourself and move through society, even how nations defend themselves in cyber wars. And I'm not even talking about AI in this episode, but whoever controls AI is going to be the one in charge. Let's be honest. The world, it's stressful right now. From constant bad news to family responsibilities to the endless pace of modern life, it feels like we're all running on overdrive. Add running a business on top of that, and it's no wonder so many of us feel wired, anxious, and unable to switch off. That's where Pulsetto comes in. Pulsetto is a breakthrough vagus nerve stimulation device that helps calm your nervous system, and it brings your body back into balance. By sending gentle, science-backed signals through your vagus nerve, it activates your body's natural rest and digest response, the opposite of fight or flight. Here's what that means for you. Less stress in the moment so you can breathe easier and think clearly. Better, deeper sleep so you can finally wake up rested. Faster recovery for your mind and body because burnout doesn't have to be normal. And more calm, focus, and energy for the things that matter most. This isn't just a gadget. It's rooted in neuroscience. The vagus nerve is like your body's built-in reset switch. When it's stimulated, your heart rate slows, cortisol levels drop, and your nervous system shifts into calm mode. Pulsetto makes that reset available anytime, whether you're winding down before bed, at your desk between meetings, or even on the go. If stress has been running your life, Pulsetto helps you take the controls back. Try Pulsetto today and experience the difference in your sleep, stress, and daily energy. In times like these, everyone's looking for stability. Inflation is shifting the value of our money, and new technologies like central bank digital currencies are changing how we think about the future of finance. The truth is, none of us can predict exactly what will happen, but we can prepare. That's why so many smart investors are turning to silver, gold, bull. Precious metals have always been the ultimate way to protect wealth. Unlike paper money, gold and silver hold their value and often grow stronger during uncertain times. Owning metals gives you something real, tangible, and in your control. It's not just about hedging against inflation. It's about building confidence in your financial foundation. With Silver Gold Bull, you get secure, discreet shipping of physical silver and gold right to your door, transparent pricing, and trusted service from one of North America's most respected bullion dealers. Options to hold metals in your hands or build long-term security through gold RRSPs and other retirement accounts. And the peace of mind that comes from knowing your money is backed by assets that last. Look, if you've been looking for a way to bring more stability and independence into your financial future, this is it. Scan the QR code or click the link in my description here to get started with Silver Gold Bull today. And if you have questions, give Graham a call. He'll walk you through everything that you need to know. Protect your wealth, build stability, and create a future you can trust with Silver Gold Bull. So the question is, will these tech titans align with governments, or will they become the new global superpower themselves? Let's circle back to what's happening in our own backyard, because Canada's actions reveal something deeply disturbing about how this global chess game is really being played. Mark Carney, former Bank of England governor, current prime minister, I can only see his actions with China as betrayal, diplomatic betrayal of everything that Canada supposedly stands for. And the mainstream media is treating it like a routine trade mission. I have seen some legacy media journalists pushing back, but I've heard a lot of praise for China. The facts that should scare every freedom-loving person, Carney explicitly stated that this China reset, this new relationship, it's going to set us up well for the new world order. right? It's like in Satanism, they have to tell you what's going to happen before they do the thing to you. I feel like that's what's happening here. We have Canadian journalists who have to use burner phones because China actively spies on reporters. They're establishing law enforcement cooperation, aka intelligence sharing, with a regime that runs concentration camps and who already practices espionage. This is happening while the CIA is desperately trying to recruit Chinese defectors because they can't get reliable intelligence on Beijing's plans. The US knows what's going on, but Canada's like, let's get in bed with China. So American intelligence is treating China as an existential threat. Mark Carney himself 9 months ago said China was Canada's greatest threat. And now Mark Carney setting up a relationship where Canada is going to share intelligence with China. What makes this truly sinister, Carney isn't just some politician making bad decisions. His network of connections to Chinese interests have been extensively documented. We already know about his 103 conflicts of interest, but he has financial ties through Brookfield Asset Management with China. He's got green energy investments that benefit from Chinese manufacturing and climate policies that conveniently align with Chinese economic interests. He's not a dumb person either. This isn't incompetence. This is coordination. This is his strategy, not to set up Canada well, but his own pockets. And it raises the question, how many Western leaders are already working for the other side? You know, with all this Trump derangement syndrome and focus on the US, have people actually gone that crazy that they thought China is a good partner for it? I get that we need other partners, but we should be partnering with the global superpower that's on our border, not a communist dictatorship from over the seas that already interferes with our elections, has arrested Canadians. And think about the timing. Trump is preparing to take office with an explicitly America First agenda. I agree with this America First agenda. I wish somebody was putting Canada first. He's talking about Greenland, Panama, even military action in Venezuela. Meanwhile, Canada, America's closest ally, supposedly is hedging its bets with communist China. This is going to piss off Trump. And everyone that has TDS that's listening to this, I need to remind you that Carney ran on one thing. He was going to get a deal with America. So this is exactly what a multipolar world looks like in practice. Traditional alliances crumble as countries choose sides based on economic interests rather than shared values. And guess what? The globalists, they love this chaos because it creates the crisis that they need to justify their solution, which is global governance. A multipolar world will be chaotic. It will be violence, and it's going to justify global governance, more control. Trump's clearly got an empire strategy. He's trying to build an Americas. And when we look at what he's actually doing, because his strategy really reveals which of these three theories is actually winning right now, when Trump talks about Greenland and Panama and Venezuela, the media portrays it as just a random bluster, right? But when you understand the geopolitical chessboard that we're playing, it's actually kind of brilliant. Maybe a little dangerous. I'm hoping that this doesn't cause World War III, but it is a strategy for the multipolar world that we're entering. He's trying to make America as strong as possible, resource strong, border strong. Canada is not doing that. Greenland isn't just about real estate, it's about the Arctic. We're talking about massive rare earth mineral deposits, essential for technology, new shipping routes opened by climate change, strategic military positioning between Russia and China, and control over future energy resources. Trump isn't negotiating with Denmark. He's going directly to Greenland's leaders, using both carrots and sticks to bypass traditional diplomatic channels. And if this sounds familiar, it's exactly what China does with Taiwan and what Russia did with Crimea. The Europeans are finally waking up to this threat. Nordic leaders are now saying NATO would be over if the US takes Greenland by force. But as one expert noted, European governments are weak and vulnerable right now. Trump, he knows, he can smell it when someone is weak. And it's how he became a billionaire and a president. When we looked at what just happened in Venezuela, Venezuela is so obviously not just about oil. It's not even about fighting socialism, right? The new leader is also communist. It's about establishing regional dominance before China and Russia can fill that vacuum. So there's huge strategic value for Trump to be in Venezuela. Massive oil reserves, geographic positioning so that they can control Caribbean shipping, preventing Chinese or Russian military bases in the Western Hemisphere, and demonstrating American power to other regional actors. This is big. Demonstrating power. Like, despite what you think about him going in and taking Maduro, that was an incredible act that the US military was able to pull off. And while he's making a lot of people angry right now, he's making NATO angry. I don't see anyone in NATO stepping forward to attack the US. I do not see that ever happening. He's really flexing right now and people are scared. And the Panama Canal, like, if he controls the canal, he controls global trade routes. It's that simple. China has been making inroads in Panama for years. Trump is essentially saying, no, not in my backyard. The Western Hemisphere is America's desired sphere of influence, and Trump is willing to use force to maintain it, and it's going to be chaotic. I don't think Trump started the war. I think Trump already knows that we are at war and this is happening. And he's like, all right, if this is the game, I'm going to play it and I'm going to win. Konstantin Kisin from Trigonometry, he said, when you can't maintain global hegemony, you better dominate your region before someone else does. Trump is playing cartel politics on a global scale. I don't think he's starting this chaos. It is chaotic what he's doing. I think this game had already started. It started the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. The game already changed, and I think Trump's just playing it. Now, there's a digital prison being built around all of us while all this chaos is happening. While we're focused on the geopolitical power struggles, or purely on Trump, because that's all our media talks about, there's something even more sinister happening right under our noses. The digital control grid is being built in real time. The 15-minute cities, the digital ID, most people are just sleepwalking into digital slavery. So I have seen a huge pushback on digital ID in the UK. This is good news, but I don't know if this is like the end of the fight. And if it does go forward, I don't know if it actually can be stopped. Once we have digital ID, every transaction is tracked and recorded, your location monitored in real time, your social connections mapped and analyzed, your access to services controlled by an algorithm. It's the terrifying social credit system that China has. And again, we have Canada linking arms with China. I think Carney thinks it's admirable what China has set up. The EU wants to end all online anonymity. And Canada also looks up to the EU. Canada's implementing digital ID frameworks now, and even some US states are moving in this direction. This level of coordination happens through conversation, not by accident. This is the New World Order theory in action. We have global elites using the same playbook to implement the same control systems worldwide. When we look at the China model, we know where this leads. Social credit scores determine where you can travel, what jobs you can have, even who your children can marry. Facial recognition systems everywhere track your every movement, and your digital currency can be turned off if you say the wrong thing. And this is a terrifying reality that Western governments aren't trying to compete with China's surveillance state. They're trying to copy it. Which future are we heading towards right now? That is the million-dollar question. Which of these theories is actually winning? Which of these systems is actually going to happen? Are we heading towards centralized global control or chaotic multi-power competition? Or are the tech companies just going to rule the world? And more importantly, what can you do about it? There's evidence for each theory right now. So the New World Order, we have coordinated digital IDs, synchronized climate policies, international health regulations, and global financial system integration. There's proof right there. The multipolar world theory, we have US-China trade war is intensifying, Russia directly challenging Western order, regional blocs are forming like the BRICS expansion, and traditional alliances are fracturing, and we're seeing bizarre things like Canada and China creating new relationships and bonds. Meanwhile, all the tech bros are getting more and more power. They're controlling political communication. AI systems are making more decisions about our lives. Cryptocurrency challenging national currencies, and social media platforms determining what's true. Also, increase in censorship and all the things that I talk about all the time here. My assessment, based on everything that I see as a non-expert, as a podcaster, like deep diving, nerding out on this stuff every day, I think we're heading towards a hybrid scenario. There's competing regional blocks with internal digital control systems. Think of it as like multiple different kinds of digital prisons competing against one another. There still is this globalist dream of a unified world government, but I think that one's a little too ambitious on its own. Human nature and national interests are too strong. And then we get someone like a Melee or a Trump, and they're just setting this idea on fire. And globalism only works if everybody plays. If any one nation is free, people aren't going to go along with this. So that's not going to happen. But the pure chaotic multipolar world is too unstable to last. So I think what we're likely to see is a Western bloc with shared surveillance systems, a Chinese sphere with Beijing-centered control, a Russian sphere of influence, and these blocs will continue to compete aggressively while controlling their own populations. It might be the worst of both worlds. I don't know. You get the surveillance and the control of the New World Order, but without the stability. You get the chaos and the conflict of a multipolar world, but without the freedom. And maybe there'll be like hippie communities like dispersed without, or maybe there'll be like you could escape to certain islands in the world. I don't know, where people are bowing out, not participating in any of this. What it's not is boring. That's for sure. I know this might all sound crazy, I don't know, overwhelming, but here's why I'm sharing this with you. Because knowledge is power, and sovereign individuals who understand what's really happening can still choose their own path. I also want you to know that most of what's being shared on mainstream media isn't even the story, and it's just designed to have us focused on things that don't even matter and fighting with each other. We have to be practical about what's coming, right? Digital ID systems, central bank digital currencies, social credit systems, regional conflicts, economic warfare. If you're not preparing for these realities, and not like you have to be a prepper, but you do have to think about the world that we're stepping into. You're going to set yourself up to be a victim no matter what system wins if you are not getting yourself to a place where you feel financially secure, in a good place, in a good community, in a country that you're willing to weather the storm in, because I don't think there is a perfect place to be right now. I think this stuff is going to affect every nation in some way. So I think it's important to be somewhere where you feel the strongest, and that's going to be unique for everyone. What gives me hope is throughout history, sovereign individuals have always found ways to maintain their freedom, even under oppressive systems. The key is understanding the game and positioning yourself accordingly. Financial sovereignty, we spend a lot of time diversifying across currencies, assets, focusing on skill building, even like been nerding out on AI and how I can use that to create more revenue here, creating multiple streams of income, understanding cryptocurrencies, precious metals. Then we have information sovereignty, developing independent information sources. When I was in El Salvador, I got to meet a lot of very interesting people who are building these communication systems that are outside of, Google and Facebook and, basically like a whole new internet. That is real. That is a reality, something that's building right now. You want to learn how to recognize propaganda and manipulation so that not only is your nervous system not hijacked, but you're not wasting your time on the wrong things. And you want to build real, direct relationships, not just digital connections, because who knows what our access is going to look like in the future. And of course, teaching your children these critical thinking skills as well. When it comes to where you actually are, again, maybe geographic diversification, land in another country, a passport in another country. You can build practical skills and self-reliance. There's a lot of people moving like off grid, that kind of thing. But I think it's just really important to feel strong. For some people, that means leaving and going to Mexico. For some people, that just means fortifying their base at home, wherever they're at. That's going to be really unique. And I think community really plays into that. Where do you have a really strong community? Because we can't do these things on our own. And last but not least, you're going to hear a lot of this kind of content from me in the near future. your spiritual health, maintaining your moral compass regardless of social pressure, focusing on the foundation of your spiritual life, building inner strength through faith, remembering that your identity comes from God, not government. And you need to stay rooted and tethered to truth, even when it's unpopular. Here's what I need you to understand. We are living through the most significant transformation of human civilization in centuries. The decisions made in the next few years will determine whether your children grow up free or enslaved. The mainstream media, it wants you to believe that all of this is normal political theater, or that only Trump is the bad guy and everybody else is good and it's just business as usual. The establishment wants you to feel powerless and overwhelmed, but you are not powerless. You are here, you're awake, and you're part of a growing movement of people who refuse to be controlled. There is a war on your individual freedoms, on sovereignty, and it's so clear that weakness is being engineered. That means that you have to do everything in your power to become the light so that you don't get consumed by the darkness. I want you to do 3 things after listening to this episode. Have a conversation with someone, share this episode, and have this conversation. What kind of world do you think we're stepping into? Is this the New World Order? Is this, like Konstantin Kisin said, a multipolar world? Are the tech bros taking over? What are we stepping into? Number 2, what are some concrete steps that you can do to make yourself stronger, to protect your sovereignty? Is it geographic? Is it financial? And last but not least, stay connected to this community. We're building something powerful here. Subscribe to the Sovereign Sphere Substack. I'm going to be putting some bonus content in there. You guys can chat with me, interact with me. I'd love to hear from you as well. Tell me which theory you think is winning and what you're doing personally to prepare. This podcast is for the leaders, the builders, the sovereign minds who are creating the next world. Until next time, stay strong, stay sovereign, and keep building. I'll see you guys for another episode here soon.